All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 40 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. I am your host, Neil LaFortune, coming to you all the way from Orillia, Ontario, Canada, 90 minutes north of Toronto. Before I bring today's guest on, I am so excited, by the way, to be chatting with Hannah Welton, and I can't wait for everybody here to listen to her journey thus far and hear about what it was like playing with Prince and all those great details. But I wanted to wish Mr. Vinny Colaiuta, right over here, well, he's not right here, he's on the wall there, a happy birthday today. It is his birthday today. I wanted to thank Dinah Gretsch for connecting me with Hannah. I appreciate that very much. And I wanted to thank Mr. Maurice Johnson and Nicholas Lucero. Maurice for the artwork and for the video, and for my friend Nicholas for doing all the behind the scenes work. So let's connect with Hannah. I gotta add you to the stream. Woo!
Oh, there
Hey,
we are.
we
What's
made it.
up?
How are you? Very nice. Hey, I love
I am
this.
doing
I love
good.
this. I love this shirt.
Thank you. I had to, right now with my setup, we've got my electronic kit set up over there in the studio
Yep.
because three kids, you know,
Ah,
it's better to be able to lay drums at any time during naps when I'm not having to be, mom consistently. So I was like, okay, I don't have my drums set up right now. Do I have something Gretsch? And I
that's
remembered that
perfect.
I had this epic shirt. And so I had to rep somehow. So thanks
Yeah.
for having me. How are
Thank you
you?
for. I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. I remember you and I chatted on the old Gretsch Woodshed forum. This was
Oh,
probably a
man.
decade ago. Might have been just before you played with Prince, and you were gracious enough to answer back some of the questions that I had regarding the new classic line, which was new
Oh,
versus
man.
USA Custom. And you were the one that said, "Don't ignore the Renown series." So, and I
Oh, yeah.
didn't. They're awesome. So I have two Renown kits here as well as
Yay.
some USAs. But I appreciate you joining today, and
Absolutely.
this is awesome. So where are you right now? Are you in Chicago?
No, I'm in Minnesota. So I'm
You
just
are in
outside.
Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm just outside of Minneapolis. So my husband Joshua and I moved the top of last year,
Okay.
in January, back out here to Minnesota. It's home. It's home, and it's
Oh,
been home for a minute. So we love it out here, even though it's
yeah.
cold, super
Yeah,
cold.
I know. We have
Yeah,
probably the same weather here. Let me tell you. Oh, winter
probably. Yeah.
is in full swing. That's for sure. Oh, that's awesome. Now your accent is not a Chicago, or I would put that as a Kentucky accent. Of course, I
You're
know it's
right.
a Kentucky
You're
accent, right?
right.
So, so is that where you grew up? Is that where you were born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Kentucky until I was about 13 or so, and then moved with my dad and little brother to Chicago
Wow.
and lived there for a while until I was about 21. And when Joshua and I got married at 21 is when we moved down to Atlanta, and we were in Atlanta for about 9 months. And then that's when I got the Prince call.
That's
And
crazy
so, yeah,
stuff,
we ended
right?
up in Minneapolis. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a that's a, I love. I've been through Minneapolis and whatnot. And I could feel the funk through
Oh my
there, man.
gosh.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, it's saturated with it.
No kidding. I had another guest, Mr. Dave Onania, who is friends with a lot of the folks from the Prince camp, and he lived there for many years, and it was a very fertile ground indeed for him as well. So let's
Of
go
course.
back to early. When did drums and music enter your life?
So I would say music actually entered way earlier than drums did. I grew up in a very musical, artsy family. My dad was a professional trumpet player for a
Wow.
while, and so
Wow.
he has always had a love for music, of course. And I actually started dancing at 3 because my
Wow.
sister and older brother were also dancers too. I'm one of 6 kids. I'm number 4.
Whew.
And yes, and
Wow.
so dance was very big in our family, very heavy. We were very involved in dance. And so I actually started dancing at 3 and loved to perform, to sing, to dance, to be goofy and entertain. It was just so natural, and I fell in love with it. And so I actually started drumming at age 7. And I was in
Wow.
what's now known as the Louisville Leopard Percussionists. I was a part of that group when I was 7, and it was known as the Fabulous Leopard Percussionists at that time. So that's how I got started. And yeah, music has always been a part of what we do in my family.
It seems dancing early on really lends itself to having great sense of rhythm, and you're
Yes.
able to translate it. I remember going to Cuba a few years ago and trying to learn some of the Cuban dances, and the people asked, "What do you do in Canada?" I said,
Yeah.
I'm a drummer," and they went, "But you can't really." And I go, "What?" Can It was hilarious.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, so I
That's
practiced,
hilarious.
but it's funny. Oh, that is
Yeah.
amazing. And Steve Gadd also tap dance, and a number of my other guests
Yep.
are
Yep.
dancers. So were you feeling the rhythm from an early age? And what kind of music was being played in your household?
Oh man, I would say everything. Everything under the sun. My dad was a classically trained trumpet player, and so he
Wow.
had a very traditional upbringing when it came to music, reading sheet music and all that sort of stuff. Went to college for it and was in marching band, and so I had a little bit of a classical upbringing, but then also definitely country. My mom actually was more of the country head. My dad's not so into country,
Ha!
but especially classic rock, that was huge with my dad and I. And Zeppelin is like duh for most any drummer anyways. John Bonham was the first drummer that I really dove into his style and the choices that he made and his judgment musically and why he did what he did, how he committed to every note.
Yeah.
Just really, he was the first drummer that I really dove into. And so yeah, classic rock was big, jazz was big. What else? Funk. My dad really loves those horn bands like Chicago and
Yeah.
stuff like that because he was a trumpet player. So yeah, all sorts of stuff.
That
And then
and it
definitely to hip hop and pop. I think with the generation that I just came up in too, when what was popular as I was growing up was,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
pop music,
Yep.
rap, R&B. And so I naturally, just because of the culture I was still raised in, really gravitated toward that too. So really a lot of everything.
I could hear the rock influence when I was watching and but I didn't realize that you had that background in Bonham. And that's one of the questions that I didn't even put on the list. And I was shoveling the driveway a little while ago thinking, oh, I've got to ask. I know, I've got to
No,
ask.
I bet we were shoveling at the same time because I had to shovel our sidewalk.
You were wearing your Gretsch shirt. No, I was wearing this,
Exactly.
man. I'm not putting a coat on. I'm in denial here.
Oh gosh.
When did Gretsch drums enter your life? What was your first exposure to them?
So I think my first exposure to Gretsch drums, I was 15 or so. And I'm 30 now. So 15 years ago. And I would say, I know, I would say, I think it was either a PASIC or a NAM show. And I've heard a lot of drummers through different interviews and stuff lately talking about Gretsch, saying that they were introduced to Gretsch through, different session work and hearing
Yeah.
other people play the drums and wondering what that sound was and what product that was. And I actually was first introduced to Gretsch in a different way. I met the people first
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
fell in love, of course, with the people, the artist reps and of course
Yeah.
Fred and Dinah. And let me tell you, that to me is so much more important than being able to manufacture a beautiful product. And I hold so strongly to maintaining great relationships with great people, regardless of what they can do for me, what kind of product they create, what kind of, reputation their product itself has. I want to know who the people behind the product are and if I would be happy, going out with them and spending time with them and taking pictures with them and being seen with them in public. You know what I mean? And the Gretsch family, the Gretsch legacy, I mean, it's as strong as it is because of the people that they are. And so I fell in love with the people before I even fell in love with the drums. And then, of course, when I played the drums, and the first kit that I had was a Renown Maple, which I still have today. Of course, it was just the cherry on top to be able to play such a remarkable and historic instrument.
Wow, I've never had in my 40 episodes that answer, but I know everybody
Oh wow.
gets around to loving on Fred and Dinah and Paul and the team and Andrew Shreve and all of those folks. I got to know them afterwards. I've been a Gretsch player since a long time ago, since before you were born, since 1986, and an
Oh
artist
wow.
since 2018. But I've gotten
Amazing.
to know them just over the last few years and been to the factory, and that cemented it for me, you know.
Yeah.
And man, that is such a great answer. I just want to say,
Oh
I
yeah.
cannot believe how many folks here are commenting here. We have
Awesome.
there's some Ford names here. That's your
Oh
maiden
snap!
name, and
That
a
is my
bunch of
maiden
people.
name.
Oh man, Peter, my friend Peter Joseph said Neil can't dance. That he does not know that for a fact. And we have Anthony McKelly, a Canadian Gretsch artist, actually a USA Gretsch signed artist. But hello to everybody, and please let us know where you are watching from.
Hello.
If you have a
Yes.
question for Hannah, please type it in, and we will definitely get to it. I wanted to ask you, going
Yeah.
back, so you were 7 when you started playing drums.
Yes. Hmm.
So were you playing classic rock? What were you playing? Did you do lessons early on? Were you reading? Were you playing by ear? Fill us in.
So yeah, in with the fabulous leopard percussionist, now the Louisville leopard percussionist, I'm sure some of you maybe have even seen the videos of them that have gone kind of viral, especially the Crazy Train video for Ozzy Osbourne that they did. We it's massive ear training at a very young age. So the first
Wow.
instrument I actually learned to play was a marimba, and it was a little, I think maybe an octave and a half or so, maybe 2 octaves, just a little baby marimba. And I learned just my major scales. And what Diane Downs, who is the leader of the group, how she taught you was she would just kind of introduce those fundamentals, here's your
Man.
major scales. And if you wanted to audition for the group, you could. And of course, as soon as I learned how to play, I wanted to, and auditioned, and that's the rest is history. And so I was 7 at Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School in Kentucky, and learned how to play this marimba during a break, from language arts class. And
Wow.
I was hooked. And so, yeah, I didn't even play drums per se right away. And I loved it. I just loved making music. And so, yeah, ear training, no reading. I didn't really start reading for real until, I mean, middle school was when I first started reading, but I was way behind because everyone else that was in my middle school had learned how to read, through their basic elementary school band
Right.
program.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. I learned in a very unconventional way. And so I had a very strong ear from the beginning, but was learning how to read and struggling all through middle school to catch up. And then in high school, it got even harder. But
Right.
I really practiced, and I would go into the band room before school, and I would stay after school, and I would just try to read and really get that discipline into my system, and it came along and was going well. But yeah, I've always been more of a stronger, just natural ear learner, and being able to pick up pretty quick.
That's amazing, especially if you're able to figure out more complex things. But starting with the major scales is so key, right? Uh,
Yeah,
what about playing drum? Did you do marching stuff as well?
I sure did.
Yeah, I
I
thought so.
did. Yes, I loved marching band. I was in marching band all 4 years of high school. I played snare all 4 years.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
man, did I love it. It just opened, and there's that epic classic movie drum line that just really
Yeah.
it puts me in my feels even when I watch it now, because it's just so cool. It's such a I don't want to say a high, but that's kind of what it is, during the football games when you come out with the marching band and the drum line goes first and everybody's cheering and the adrenaline is just rushing. And yeah, so I was in marching band for all 4 years in high school, and I played snare.
So how did you learn the rudiments? We don't I never did any of that stuff here. I don't know very many of my drum friends that did that are Canadian for some reason. I don't know, maybe it
Hmm.
snows too much, but it's around for sure. But like, how was the process? And like your first year, you said, okay, I'm playing snare drum, or Hannah, you're playing snare drum. What did you start with,
Yeah.
singles and doubles and things like that?
Yeah, so I know you had asked me in the last question if I had taken lessons and stuff like that.
Yes.
And so initially when I first got started, I wasn't taking drum lessons, but when my dad saw that there was this natural gift that needed to be cultivated,
Yeah.
he for sure got me lessons um fairly quickly, I believe. I mean, that was so long ago. I don't remember specifically when I actually started taking lessons, but I do know when we moved to Chicago is when we really picked up with the pouring in and investing into the dream and the vision and the gift. And so
Wow.
I was taking lessons for sure regularly. I guess I would say around 13. And so my teacher, his name is Joe Sonnefeld, and he's a pretty well-known percussionist in the Chicago scene. Does a lot of classical stuff, musical stuff. He plays in pits
Wow.
for musicals all the time. Played in Lion King in
Wow.
Chicago, and yeah, so he is really amazing and
Yeah.
really helpful with helping me strengthen my reading, helping me with rudiments, helping me with mallet percussion and all that stuff. So I had that a little bit more of a background in reading and rudiments and stuff like that going into high school. Um, that was really helpful with marching band. And so at that point,
Mm.
my technique and everything was in a place. I had never played traditional grip. So I was
Wow.
learning how to play traditional as I was assigned snare in marching
Ah.
band. Because I wasn't even in jazz band at that time. And so I hadn't really started swing stuff yet. And so marching band was my first peek into traditional grip and really strengthening those muscles. And it was boot camp, but it was so fun. And I have this drive and discipline to really focus. And when I'm given a task, especially musically, I don't know why. It's just I have to perfect it. And so I was just like pushing through the pain, pushing through, the workout. And it was frustrating for sure at times to really get that into my muscle memory. But once it was there, it clicked.
Man, you are a ball of energy. Holy, this is unbelievable. I'm getting
Thanks.
inspired to go play once we're
Oh,
done.
yay. That's
That
great.
I remember watching a video of you on YouTube. I don't know how many years ago, and you were playing. It was a rudiment thing. Was on the practice pad, and you were playing
Gosh.
a paradiddle thing. But you
Yeah.
surprised yourself at how easy it came out and how fast you gave this little woo kind of thing where it was like you were surprised, and I went, I gotta go practice because this girl is a
Oh,
lot younger than I am. Doesn't matter
thank you.
male or female, but I'm like,
Right.
okay, I got to get going here. So man, we've got a lot of folks from all over,
Yay.
from Puerto Rico, from Illinois, buried in snow, Chi Town, Lebanon, Indiana. Um, Bavaria, that's pretty awesome here. Colorado, that is unbelievable. Okay, so now let's fast forward a little bit
Okay.
here. And
Okay.
you got a scholarship, I believe, to Chicago College of
Yeah.
Performing Arts. Was that
Mhm.
How did that happen? And what did you learn there? What was your focus there?
Yeah, so in my last 2 years, I believe, of high school, I actually started private lessons with Paul Wertico. Woohoo! Go Paul. He's like drum
Woo!
royalty. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So I was already studying with Paul, and at that time, he was the head of the jazz department at Chicago College of Performing Arts.
Ah,
And, as a high school student, I was so wide-eyed for California and getting out to LA. You know, at that time I was consistently going to PAS and NAM and meeting people and making connections, and I wanted to work as a musician. And so for me, LA was the place to be. And you know, Paul was really, really I don't want to say insistent, but he was just kind of asking me, you know, hey, LA, Hollywood, it's always going to be there. But why don't you at least try to go to college? Why don't you try to take even just a couple years and see what you get out of it, see what you can
Interesting.
learn, really continue to develop your chops. And because I had already had this rapport with Paul and a trust with him as my teacher, I took what he said as wisdom. And I sat with my dad, and you know, I applied at Berkeley. I got a scholarship to Berkeley. I got a scholarship to Chicago College of Performing Arts, and those were the only two schools that I applied to. And I sat with my dad, and you know, we kind of wrote out the pros and cons, so to speak. And you know, we decided that staying in Chicago for a little bit longer was best, not just because of the jazz program and stuff at CCPA, but also because I, at that time, was already gigging with my band consistently. I was already a working musician in Chicago on top of being able to go to school and be a student. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds. It just wasn't in LA. And so I did that and got a scholarship, went to Chicago College of Performing Arts, and I was there for 2 years um, and loved it. I had a blast. I was a jazz performance major. And so my focus was jazz, was drum set, but the program was amazing because you got assigned a different combo every semester, I believe it was. And so one semester, you know, you could be in fusion combo, the next in bebop, the next in hard bop, the next in Brazilian, the next in swing. And so it was just really great experience. I was also in the Latin ensemble with Ruben Alvarez as the leader, which I've known Ruben since I was in the Leopards in Kentucky. And so moving to Chicago was another plus to be closer to him and spend time with him. So Ruben was always amazing, and I love him so much. So I was in Latin ensemble, different combos every semester. I also joined the vocal jazz program and was learning jazz, how to sing vocally, because it's so different than, you know, classical singing. And also as a music major, even though I was a jazz major, we had to take classical piano, and then we could take jazz piano and classical theory and jazz theory and sight singing and like oral singing and like sight singing, reading, all sorts of stuff. And so man, it was a crazy 2 years jam packed with so much information and learning. But on top of that, you know, I also got to meet some really cool people. Rob Parton, I was in the big band, and I think, I don't know, I don't want to say the only freshman or whatever to play drums in the big band, but typically it was the upperclassmen that were in the big band ensemble for the college. And as a freshman, I got to hold that seat, and it was such an honor to be in the big band. Man, there is something special about swinging with a big band that is just so different than really any other type of gig experience or playing. Even in a rock band, you can get sort of bits and pieces of that same feeling, but swinging with a big band, there's just something to be said about that seat that's really powerful.
You drive the bus and you control
Yes,
so many things, and that's it's probably for me. I've never done it. I've played along with big band tracks and whatnot, and absolutely love that and record myself. And but I've
totally.
never done that. And man, what a dream come true! That's an intensive amount of work. Now,
Yes.
did you complain about because I hear some? Well, but it's true. Like I'll you know, I have some drum students, and over the years, the ones that say, "Well, I want to be a professional drummer, I want to do this," but then they'll complain if they have more than an hour of things to practice, and it's
Oh my
but
gosh.
it must. Oh, I know, Ed. But at my own studies at Ontario College of Percussion, it was they were writing, and I'm like, well, that's 5 hours so far. Plus, we need to work on some piano stuff, and that's what it takes if you want to get somewhere. It's hard
Yeah.
work. I can't believe that you did and juggled all it. When did you have time to eat and
Look,
sleep?
I have never had a hard time finding time to eat. Let me tell you, I am a foodie, and so I definitely I will make time to eat. That's for sure. That's never been a problem for me. But yeah, no, it was a very intense schedule. I mean, theory at 8 a.m. in the morning at school all the way until sometimes 10 p.m. at night after big band rehearsals, Latin ensemble, combo rehearsals, and in breaks in between doing homework. And it was very grueling process because too you also want to find time to go into the practice rooms and practice your parts, for these ensembles that you're in. And because you want to come to rehearsal prepared so that you all can work on the cohesive chemistry as a band. And if you're coming still trying to learn your part in the band rehearsal, you're holding everybody back, especially as the drummer. And so it was a very grueling schedule, but I was so grateful to be able to go to a college where I didn't have to also take gen eds. The only gen ed I had to take was, I think, one semester of English. Other than that, it was all music all day long. And I was so happy about that because I had friends, that were going to school for, other things as majors, but they had to take other classes that didn't necessarily, tie into what they wanted to do and what they were studying as a specialty. And so for me, it was a blessing to just be able to be throwing myself into music, no matter what that looked like every, hour or so. It was really great. I loved it.
Did you have a vision for your future? Did you know? I obviously you knew that you were going to be doing something. Did you know that it was
Yeah.
going to be as huge as it turned out to be?
So, I'll say yes and no because I've always, man, ever since I was little, uh, had big dreams. I've always had big vision for myself, especially in regards to performance. I was talking to my dad, even though I was a drummer, because I was also a dancer and I was in this massive move of pop culture, I wanted to be the next Britney Spears and, all this sort of stuff. And so I have always been wide-eyed and positive and optimistic about what my future could be. And also one of the I guess not frustrating, but one of the things that I encountered as such a young artist with endorsements, I wanted to, you know, be playing at PASIC. I wanted to do clinics. And I think one of the things, when I got all these endorsements so early, it's because these companies saw something in this little 13-year-old girl that I think that I saw in myself and my dad saw in me, but they also saw that I wasn't necessarily ready yet. And I was just like, come on, let me at him, it's my turn, and I remember having a very candid conversation with one of my artist relations reps, with my dad, either at a PASIC or a NAM. And what they kept saying was, the time will come where she gets that big gig. She's just got to get that big gig, because at
Yeah.
this time, even though I was an endorsed artist, I was still a student. I was still gigging locally with my own bands in Chicago, but it wasn't, a big gig, a national or globally known artist, that really takes you to that next level of performance and professionalism. And so that's what I kept hearing for years in my career. And I think because I got such an early start, sometimes it was a frustration of mine, because I'm like, man, when am I going to get this big break, you know? And so I was hungry for the big gig, and I knew it was just a matter of time. And when that phone call came, um
Hmm.
oh my
Let's talk.
gosh. I
Let's
mean,
talk
yeah,
about
go ahead.
that. Yeah, let's talk about that. Folks are chomping at the bit to wanting to find out how it happened, how Prince discovered you. Let's
Oh
talk
my
about it.
gosh. So I was 21 in, or maybe just freshly 22, I think. Living in Atlanta, Georgia, newlywed. serving at a church down there with my husband, very heavily involved in the teen ministry at the time. And so it was on a Sunday, or no, rewind. So we were down there still, yeah, serving everything. And I had one evening gotten this super cryptic email. And it said something like, "Hello, I work for a very well-known musician, and he was wondering if you wanted to audition for an upcoming project of his. But before we tell you anything, we need to know if you can keep a secret."
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Now, at that time, my, YouTube numbers and stuff had just started crossing over. I think one of my drummer cafe clinic videos had just crossed over 1 million views. And so in the drum community, my name was starting to get a little more familiar, but
Yep.
I still hadn't gotten that big gig. However, because the views and stuff were starting to pick up, I would get very interesting emails and stuff in my DMs. And so it was not necessarily
Right.
unexpected to come across an email like this.
Yeah.
And typically I would just kind of overlook it and let it go. But I responded this time. And I said, hey, I'm honored that you guys like my stuff, my videos. I can definitely keep a secret, but before I agree to anything, I need to know a little bit more information. God bless, something like that. Have a good one. And so the next day was a Sunday, and after service, my husband and I were hanging out with the teens. We were going over some drama stuff and all this sort of whatever. And I get an email, a ping on my phone. They responded again. And she says, "Okay, great. Well, I work for Prince, and he was wondering if you wanted to audition, for this new project of his." And I freaked out in the middle of this church where we're all rehearsing and practicing stuff for, the ministry. I am screaming, running around. I couldn't find Joshua. And so I was running through the building, through all the offices, and I was like, "Where is my husband?" And I found him. He was just one of our friends at the time, and I said, "Look at this email. Look at this. I don't know if it's real, but either way, it's really cool." And so we had a fangirl moment and responded, and I said, "Of course, yes, I'll audition. What does he want?" And that's how it happened. He found me on YouTube, of all places. And I believe one cool thing that he said about me was that he actually heard me speaking before he heard me playing. And so I think it was maybe the Drum Channel interview that I did with Terry Bozzio, because it was right around that same time when I was on Drum Channel, and then we chatted for a bit. And Prince said that he heard me talk before he heard me play. And I thought that was really cool that he was interested in what I had to say. And of course, it was just a blessing.
That is unbelievable. So what transpired next?
So they sent 3 songs of his to learn and record videos of me playing. And so I had to listen to these songs, pick them apart, teach myself the drum parts, record the video, and send it over in an email. And then when I did that, then they responded and said, "Can you sing?" And I said, "Sure." And they wanted to hear me send a video singing. And so I did that. And then it was, "Can you come to Paisley?" And I was so freaked out. And I was hoping that either my dad or Joshua could come with me, because typically I don't travel by myself, especially for work stuff. I like to at least have one of them with me for stuff. And so they kind of stuck to their guns, and they said, "No, we just want you to come this time, and next time, maybe someone can come." And so it was like, okay, do I say no, or do I just suck it up and go? And I went, and it was such a surreal experience. And you hear so many stories about Prince and what he was like, and don't look him in the eye, and don't say this, don't wear that, don't breathe like this, And he was a very peculiar person, but it was nothing like that. And so I was kind of giving myself a pep talk when I was out there, and I was like, "You know what, Hannah? You're a likable person. You're cool. Just go in and be yourself. And either it works or it doesn't. God still has a plan, and either this is part of it or not." And so I went in there and was escorted. So I don't know how much of this you want to hear, but my flight out there was my first class flight ever.
Wow.
And so this was like a whole experience for me from start to finish. And on the plane, they served me a meal. I was sitting first class. I got a little chicken sandwich. And when I got off the plane and got picked up by his manager at the time, she called him on the phone and said that he wanted to talk to me. And so this was the first time now that I've heard his voice. And so I took the phone and just said, hello. And he said, Hannah. And I said, hi. And he said, thanks for coming. And I was, of course. He said, how was your flight? And I said, oh, it was great. I was first class. And they gave me a chicken sandwich, and it was absolutely delicious. And just completely just saying everything I was thinking in that moment. And I didn't even put two and two together at that point that he was a vegetarian, and like meat wasn't even allowed in Paisley. He was a very strict vegetarian. And so here I am, this 22-year-old kid, excited about her first class flight, and I'm telling him I ate a chicken sandwich. And it was good though. And he said, okay, well, I'm glad you had a good flight. We'll see you soon. Julia will get you set up and blah, blah, blah. And so went to the hotel, waited for the call, went over to Paisley. She escorted me into one of the studios where a drum set was set up, and I was by myself in this massive studio. And I was kind of, reconfiguring the kit, making it comfortable and stuff. And he comes walking in all by himself, quiet and super cool, and just said, hey, I'm Prince. Thanks for coming. And I shook his hand, and I was just like, man, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And then he actually took me, we were walking to go into the sound stage. And the first thing that he actually asked me was, do you play ping pong? He's like, hey, I'm Prince. Do you play ping pong? And I'm like, what is this? And so I told him, I'm not good, but I'll play. I like to have fun. And so then we're walking on our way to the sound stage in Paisley, and he had on these, and a lot of people that know him know these shoes. They were little white wedges. So they were sneakers, but they had a wedge heel that was see-through. It was like plastic, so you could see through it, but it lit up on the inside. And with every step that he took. And so I told him, I was like, hey, I like your shoes. And he said, thanks, you can't have them. And I said, probably wouldn't fit them anyway. And then he said, you're taller than I imagined. And I said, yeah, I get that a lot. And so just a very casual conversation with him as our first conversation. And that's literally what our relationship was. It was very brother sister. He would roast on me and pick on me. I would, pick on him back. And it was so amazing and so down to earth and so cool. And so we get into the sound stage, and Ida was actually in there alone on the bass, which Ida was the bass player for Third Eye Girl. And she was up there by herself, I guess, waiting for us. He must have called her in. And the three of us jammed. And I think we played Purple Rain, and it was the three songs that I had to learn for the audition. So Purple Rain, Cause and Effect, and P-Funk. And it was so amazing and so fun. And after that, him and I, he said Ida could go, and him and I went into Studio C, which in Paisley is the dance studio room with the wood floor and the mirrors. And at the time it had a basketball hoop up, and we started to play Around the World. He went first though, and went all the way around the world and back before I even took a shot. So he started and won the game before I even had a chance to play. Amazing basketball player. And that was the only time I had seen him play basketball. He, hadn't played, I think, in a while at that point. But yeah, for some reason, we went back into that room. He grabbed a basketball, started shooting, went all the way around, all the way back, and that was it. And then he said, thanks for coming. We'll call you. And I said, okay, thanks. And that was it.
What a story.
Yes. Yeah, that was it. And so then I got sent home. I was literally in Chanhassen for, I think, 2 days. And that was it. And that was in July of 2012.
Yeah.
And then in August was when he flew me back out with Joshua that time. And August was the first time Joshua met him. And once again, very surreal, down to earth, like immediate connection with those two. And really, really powerful story on Joshua's side as well.
That is unbelievable. Oh, what I didn't research the story on purpose because I wanted to hear you tell it because I knew it would be unbelievable. So I'm hearing it for the first time as well. That is crazy.
That's
Now,
awesome.
I have to ask you, were you,
Mhm.
while you were playing these tunes, did you just look over at him and go, I'm playing with Prince, or were you just so in the moment, or was it maybe a little bit of both?
You know, I think it was a little bit of both because growing up, my dad was always encouraging me and teaching me to live in every moment to the fullest and be intentional with every moment, every opportunity to play, every opportunity to jam and really take it in. And so for me, it was a little bit of both because I was focused on making sure I played these parts right because I understood the gravity
Yeah.
of the moment, you know, the depth and the weight of the moment. And so I was focused, but a lot of times, anytime I've been nervous or had some sort of, you know, extra type of energy before a show, the moment that I start playing, the moment I get behind that kit, all of that goes out the window. And so any nerves that I may have had in that moment, once that music started and once we were playing, there was none of that. And the music with him was always so next level. It really was always like
Yeah.
a supernatural experience. I mean, musicians really know this because when you have musicians that you really click with and connect with, there's a communication and a flow
Yeah.
that happens without words and
Yeah.
you get each other. I've got goosebumps thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
You just
Me too.
understand each other and you get each other and you don't have to even make eye contact. You can just listen and close your eyes and you're all in the same place, the same space and time, and nothing else matters. And so that's what it was like every time playing with him. But there was also those moments, even during shows, you know, years into this thing where it's like, oh my flipping gosh, this is Prince and he just killed that solo and Donna's going in and Ida's doing this and Joshua's doing that and it was literally an amazing experience every time we stepped on that stage.
I wanted to ask you that if every gig was unbelievable at every experience. I had Steve
Yes.
Ferroni on a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about
Yeah.
the George Harrison tribute, and they didn't know that Prince was going to be playing that solo the way that they didn't know any of that stuff, and
Oh,
and
typical Prince.
they weren't right. They weren't really talking to him. So Steve goes, "Well, I'm going to go over there and say hello." So he goes over. He goes, "This is a nice fellow. You should go over there and you should, because they're like, what's he like?" But they didn't know, and they were just dumbstruck at the solo. And then Steve said, and he picked his guitar up and threw it in the air and walked off. He goes, I didn't even see the guitar land. He goes, I didn't know what happened to it. So they were just stunned. And
Yeah.
everybody, he's done some pop-up shows in Toronto over the years, and people have just been that's the best show that I've ever seen. It's like a modern day Jimi Hendrix where it
Yeah.
elevates to a, and you got to experience that at such a young age. I am so happy that you experienced that. But you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. You would have had, and you will have other amazing experiences just because of the preparation and who you are. You would have been successful whether you were a drummer, whether you were a singer, whether you would have, played another instrument. You would have had this kind of success, and you're going to have some more if you choose to.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
let's talk about. So you recorded some records, and you did some, call them records because I'm in my 50s.
I know. That's
Some
what it
records.
is.
I know, and then you did some touring. How many albums did you do with Third Eye Girl?
So that's hard to say because we recorded so much all at
Mm,
once. When we
wow.
actually
Okay.
recorded Plectrum, we didn't even realize it was an album. A lot of what Plectrum was, especially early on, um, it was really sort of rehearsal takes. So Prince would come in with new music and we go over parts and then we just record what we learned in rehearsal And it turned out to be music that we were putting together for an album. And so to know specifically how many albums we recorded, it wasn't a process like that where we went in, we said, okay, let's record an album. We're going to work on some music and record an album. And then, okay, now we're going to record another album. That wasn't the process.
Okay.
It was every day at a time, a few songs at a time. And then we ended up deciding to put it all together to make Plectrum. And so there are definitely more songs that we did record and didn't end up using that I would say are probably at least a couple albums worth. But yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, he had probably such a prolific output that he just had to write and
Constantly.
Yeah, that is unbelievable to have that, to be just to be able to channel that, that's wow,
Yeah.
what an incredible gift. Was when you did live shows, was he the kind of artist that would just play something that you had never done before, or was it pretty rehearsed? Yeah, I had a feeling. Oh, here we go.
Neil. So so I was in like Third Eye Girl. We did the rock thing for a while, and John Blackwell was actually still around when I first came around.
Okay.
And so there was MPG, John was still playing, and then Third Eye Girl. And that's where I was. But then, for whatever reason, there was a couple other drummers that kind of came in to play with MPG. And I mean, for whatever reason, it wasn't working. And so after a little while, I think Prince was just like, okay, we have Hannah. Let's put her to the test. Let's see what she's capable of. And so my first big band gig was actually the George Lucas wedding that we played. And it was on my birthday.
Oh.
So it was my first big band gig. It was a private gig for George Lucas, and it was my birthday, and it was just the first big band gig. And so I was super nervous about that one, even more so than anything I had done with Third Eye Girl at that point, because I knew I could play rock. That I grew up on rock music. Yeah. I just indoctrinated myself with rock music and John Bonham and that feel, and that was very natural to me at the time. I was still learning jazz and funk and really sort of perfecting that area. And so I guess it was maybe just a little bit out of insecurity or lack of confidence in that realm of music, and the fact that it was Prince's big band. I was nervous for those gigs. So that was my first big band gig, but that set was more rehearsed than the Third Eye Girl stuff at the time. So we played that set. It went great. It was awesome. It was fun. But Prince is notorious for random pop-up after shows. And so he wanted to do an after party in Chicago that night. And that is where Hannah was put to the test. Woo! And thrown in with the wolves, because literally that entire after show I had never played before. The medleys. So we had the Act of God medley, we had the NAACP medley, and I'm telling you, I had never played those songs before.
You're kidding.
And those medleys are at least 10 to 15 minutes each. I think the NAACP medley is even longer. And so I was nervous. Prince had told the girls, the singers, so Elisa, Shelby, and Liv, to put the set together. And so I was sitting there with watching the songs that they were putting down, and I was just telling them, because he hadn't gotten there yet. I was just like, okay, how does that song go? How does that song go? How does this go? And I was so nervous, but it went great. Goucher, Cassie, the keyboard player, Goucher played bass. At that time, Ida and Donna were both on guitar, but the Cassie and Goucher were so helpful to me during that first after show gig, just really kind of giving me cues and just thrown in there, bro. Thrown in there.
Did you know these songs though? Were you familiar with the songs?
No, especially not the medleys. so 1999, some of that stuff from the typical big band gig that we played that night, I knew a bit more. But these medleys, no, no. And so, because I'll be honest, growing up, not that I really had a preference either way, but I just grew up more on Mike. I was a big Michael Jackson fan. Not that I didn't like Prince. I knew some of Prince's stuff, but I was definitely at a young age just more susceptible, and
Right.
I guess just knew more of Mike's music. And so um, when I got into this gig with Prince and was learning these medleys, um, a lot of the medleys are songs that either he appreciated from back in the day or also wrote back in the day, for the time and his other artists. And
Yeah.
Prince fans know all of his music and everything he's had his hand on. I was not a part of the Purple Army yet at that time in my life, in regards to researching his history and knowing all of his catalog. And so I was definitely a 22-year-old kid
That's crazy.
being thrown into this scenario, but I loved it. I was like locked in. I was watching him for all his cues. I was, just, man, living the life.
Unbelievable. I have two friends here, Lisa and Peter, who are humongous Prince fans, and they were at your shows. In fact, I'm just trying to find this comment. I believe that it was at the Sony Center in Toronto, and they said that they were unbelievable. And they
Thank you.
saw you play, and yes, we saw you at the Sony Center in Toronto. One of Prince's last shows. It was absolutely amazing. I play in an ABBA tribute with Lisa, and
Oh, cool.
it's really good fun. That is incredible that you could do that. Never played. I've done that too, where you've never played, but certainly not with Prince, and certainly not in the venues with a little bit of pressure.
Talk about high stakes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is incredible. I'm getting a lot of energy, man. People are loving this. There's so many wonderful comments here.
Yay.
from folks just absolutely enjoying what you have to say, and your storytelling and everything. And your chicken sandwich story was
Look, you can take the girl out of Kentucky, but
you can't take the Kentucky Fried Chicken out of the girl.
Woo.
Oh,
No,
sorry, that's
sir.
not good. That wasn't good. Okay, so you'd played with Prince for end of 2012 up until his untimely passing. That must have just been. I thought of you as soon as I heard
Thank
that,
you.
because not that we're connected in any way, but I did have that couple of really nice email conversation about Gretsch drums, and I wondered. I'm like, I wonder how you took this, how the whole family took this. Was it a surprise? Was this just, and how you all picked up the pieces and moved on afterwards? Like, can you talk about, that sort of sad part of the story?
Yeah. So, it was rough.
Yeah,
It was
I bet.
rough, and it was sudden.
Mm-hmm.
I was 28 weeks pregnant.
Oh,
And
boy.
so Third Eye Girl at that time was already sort of on hiatus. It's not, a lot of people think that we disbanded or we broke up, and that
Right.
wasn't what it was. We had a really nonstop, every day, hardworking 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And so, Joshua and I were ready to start a family, and it's not that we weren't working with him anymore. Joshua was actually still working on music with him, even though Third Eye Girl had taken a little hiatus.
Yeah.
Joshua was still mixing shows for him. Prince was doing the piano and a microphone solo tour at the time, and Joshua was still mixing stuff for him. They were still working in the studio. And so we were actually living in one of his houses. He had given us one of his houses, and we spoke to him regularly still.
Mm-hmm.
We were not even 5 minutes away from Paisley, so Joshua and I were still over there for dinner from time to time. There's a video, I think, that's floating around on YouTube of Prince when he just popped up at the dinner theater in Chanhassen and jammed with the band that was there. We were there. We were up sitting. We were sitting with him up in the booth, or like the skybox, watching the show. And then he said, "Should I go play?" And we just looked at him and looked at each other and yeah. And so it was this really awesome moment. And he went down there and Joshua and I were just laughing uncontrollably because we just know the impact that this guy has. And it's such a blessing to see him touch people's lives and do stuff like that because he genuinely loved doing that. And we were there for that. We actually were with him. So I think the news of his passing and everything was Thursday morning. We were with him Tuesday night, super, super, super late into Wednesday morning. And then hadn't heard from him all Wednesday. And then he was found on Thursday. And so we were very much still frequently talking to him, making plans for the future. And he even was speaking to Joshua at one point and was talking about Azaria, who I was pregnant with at the time, and was just so excited for her life and was talking about, should we build her a school? What should we do? How can we, he was very much excited about, Azaria and the future. And, so that was where we all were right up until we got that news. And it shook our world. We were living in one of his houses, but because of how everyone knows how he was with paperwork and contracts, we didn't have a lease. We didn't have anything that officially stated that he had given us this home.
Right.
And so, we're about to bring a child into the world, and the owner of the house we're living in has passed. And, so we're having to move our family now and just sort of in this limbo of what do we do next? Where do we go? And what's happening, and so it definitely was tough. And, we were around for the super private memorial, that first one that went down at Paisley. And we weren't really involved with any of the tribute shows and stuff like that for a number of reasons. But it shook us. The one thing that we have held on to out of all of it is, of course, our relationship with him and words that were exchanged, and knowing that it's kind of like, when you know someone so well that even if they're not by you, if you're in a situation, or have a feeling of what they would say or what they would want you to do. And that's sort of how we continue now to carry on with our lives. We love him. We miss him. We talk about him almost every day. Azaria knows him as Uncle Prince. And he is always and will forever be a part of our family. And now everything that we do, we know that we're still a direct representation of his legacy in some form or fashion. He was more than just our boss or someone that we worked with. He was more than the music to us. He was family. He is family. And so the way that you hold on to the legacy and the memory of a family member when they pass on, it's in hope. We know that we'll see him again one day. And while we're still here in the natural, we will continue to focus on honoring God, loving God the way that we know we should, and honoring Prince and loving Prince, and just continuing in what we feel, Prince would ultimately be proud of too.
You're giving me goosebumps, man. I'm glad I'm wearing this because I think you'd see them. That is, I cried. I remember the news.
My gosh.
Just stunned. And many of my musical friends. I never did see him live. Listened to him an awful lot. I remember Purple Rain. I was 17 when that came out.
Oh,
and
man.
And the movie was kind of controversial at that point. 1984.
Go figure.
It was very, but unbelievable story. Let's what did you do musically after? Are you doing anything? Have you done any new projects? What's happening?
Yeah, so well, immediately after Prince passed, I was pregnant, so I wasn't playing much. Azaria was born in July. And then for maybe the first 6 months or so of her life, I still didn't play. I was doing a lot of healing after Prince passed. on top of physical healing and recovery from giving
Sure.
birth
Yeah.
and just adjusting to this new life as a mom. And so I didn't play for a while and I was okay with that. And I remember, I think it was January or so, that next year is when I went out to California and judged the Guitar Center drum off and was super happy, you know, to be more like reunited with so many in the drum
Yeah.
community and be in that environment. And so that was a blessing. And then I did a couple spot dates with CeeLo Green.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, that
Yeah.
was a cool experience. And
He's
you know, I
awesome.
got to go to two places I had never been before. I went to Hawaii the first one, and then South America for the next one. And so that was a cool experience, and it was
Yeah.
fun. And Donna actually was also in Hawaii with me for the CeeLo gig too. So it was cool to play with her and see her for a little bit. And yeah, that was fun. But then after that, really, since Prince passed, Joshua and I have been doing a lot of music behind the scenes. We've, of course, got our own music that is probably 2 or 3 albums worth that we have in the vault, so to speak,
Wonderful.
for when the time comes. But we've actually been doing a lot of sync music and licensing. Since
Yeah.
we've started our family, you know, it's
Sure.
more practical for us right now to do music from home and work this way than be on the road right now and either away from our kids or away from each other. And, you know, we don't want that lifestyle right now
Yep.
because it's important for all of us to be together while our babies are little. And so we've been doing home studio stuff, writing, recording, and then some of our music you'll hear on TV commercials or TV shows in the background or in movie trailers and movies. And so it's been a really cool eye-opening experience with that because that is its own industry in and of
Yes.
itself. And a really cool, you know, praise report or whatever. We actually just landed a song in that new Netflix film, Finding Ohana. And
Oh,
it's, yeah,
no.
yes. And so it's Joshua singing. It's all produced and written and arranged and just all of the titles by Joshua. And I'm singing backgrounds on that one. I didn't lay drums on that one. But I'm singing on that one. And the song is called Blush.
Can
And
write that
it's a
down.
really, really cool. Y'all make sure you go check it out if
Yeah.
you haven't yet. Because Finding Ohana in and of itself is a really good family friendly movie. And the scene that Blush is in, it's a slow motion scene and it's all lovey-dovey and magical. And the song is literally featured. It's all you hear. There's no dialogue over it. It's not, you know, faded or low in the background during the
Yes.
scene. It's featured and that's all you hear. And so it's a really, really cool thing
That's
to be watching the
wonderful.
movie and then my husband's voice is there. So I'm super proud of him for that and so
Yeah.
happy, you know, because he deserves all the success in the world. But yeah, so that's our, I guess, most recent placement that has officially aired. We've got a couple really cool things in the works musically as well that you know, as they start to release more, we'll talk about more.
Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you.
I did want to say hello, an official hello to your husband, Joshua, and to your dad,
Oh,
Dave. You've spoken about them an awful lot, and they seem like they're amazing men.
they
And
are.
so, hi to you guys.
Hi
And
guys.
I just saw a comment from one of our favorite people in the whole world, Dinah Gretsch. She just said there's
Oh, she's here. Hi.
energy. Yeah, Dinah is wonderful.
Oh, I
She's
love her so
I
much.
haven't met her or Mr. Gretsch in person yet because
Oh my
I've
gosh.
never been to a NAM yet. I hope to get to a NAM. I was hoping to go to one
Yeah.
last week, but maybe next year if it happens.
Hopefully.
It'd be really
Yeah.
cool. It'd be really neat. So how long have you been playing Gretsch drums? What do you have? And what does it mean to you to be part of such an iconic brand and family?
So I have been playing Gretsch, I think, since I was about 15. So 15 years. My first kit was a Renowned Maple,
Yeah.
and I love her. And then I got the Ocean Sparkle New Classic,
I
which
love
is
that
also a
kit.
gem.
Yeah.
Yes, so beautiful. And then um, I, with Third Eye Girl, had a USA custom made. And man, I could go on and on about these drums. I think the one thing that I always tell people is that it's always the best quality right out of the box, and they're so versatile. That is the biggest thing that I stress on students when I'm teaching, is the importance of versatility. And also on our instrument itself, Gretsch drums, you can literally take to any gig with any configuration, and they sound amazing, and they're perfect, and they fit. They are fat and open and prominent, and they sing, and they're round and warm, and all the adjectives, but yes, just so amazing. I'm not sure that I even have a favorite out of the three that I
Really?
have. I also have a little Catalina club,
Hmm.
and that one, even with the small measurements of the kick drum, little 18-inch kick drum,
Yep.
even still, that's more of a jazz kit. But I've also recommended that to people who had young kids that
Yeah.
wanted to start playing, because you don't need to go all out, and you don't have to spend a whole buttload of money, right away. And
Yep.
the Catalina is such a great kit for beginners, and it's even still very versatile. It can be used in many different ways, and so that's really amazing and important to me.
What color are the USA customs that you had with Third Eye Girl?
So they're white, like piano
Yeah.
white with gold
Oh,
trim
that's right.
in the shells, and then also gold hardware. And just
Whew.
stunning. I mean, I remember sending the photo to Prince, and Joshua sent it to him when we got the kit first set up, and it arrived at Vic's drum shop.
Oh,
And
cool.
so, yeah, with Vic Salazar, who was also
Oh,
someone that
yeah.
was just completely amazing and generous to me, and has always been massively supportive of me.
Yeah.
Vic, he is just so beloved through the whole drum community, and for good
Yes.
reason. But the drums actually arrived there, and we set them up. When I say we, I mean he, him, and my dad, most likely. And we did a photo shoot with them, and I remember Joshua sending a configuration of the kit to Prince. And it was
Wow.
initially my current setup at the time, which was I believe 2 up, 2 down, with one main kick, and then a smaller auxiliary
Mm-hmm.
kick.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what my new classic setup was. And then Prince, it was funny because I have to give Joshua his props. He said, wouldn't it be cool if there was a third bass drum to make it look more
Third
symmetrical, and,
Eye.
third eye girl and all that sort of stuff. And so
That's
then when we
smart.
sent the picture to Prince, go figure, he asked for another kick. And
Ah.
so it became what it is, which was the 3 kicks, and then 2 up top, 2 on the side, and different variations throughout that journey. But yes, that was, I think I'm trying to remember your question. Yeah, that was the layout of the USA custom.
That I remember seeing that kit. I remember seeing. I think first I had seen the new classic kit and went, "That is what I wanted. That color. I had it for backline a year and a half ago. We played it at Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas for 2 weeks with the ABBA
Oh,
show,
what a
and
rough gig.
it was terrible. We worked in Aaron. It was amazing. Oh man. But that was my backline kit. It was 10, 12, 16, 22. And they
Yeah,
sounded and looked so great. I couldn't believe it. It was just, it was
so
great
good.
fun. Okay,
Yeah.
now you suggested on our email exchange that we do a little word association game here. So
Yes.
I have some words here. So what we're gonna
Oh
do is so the first thing that pops into your mind as soon as I say these words, I have a feeling we're gonna
no. Oh
run out
gosh,
of
I
words.
have butterflies. Okay.
Here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Family,
Love.
Prince,
Purple. Love.
Taylor Swift,
Bestie. I would love to be her best friend. I love her.
drums,
Passion.
Chicago,
Windy.
purple,
Favorite.
Bonham,
Best.
hmm, groove,
Important. That's where it's at. That's everything.
Joshua,
My everything.
Faith.
Rooted.
Band.
Chemistry. That's funny because I bet you were asking for my favorite band, but I'm thinking about
No,
what you
no.
need in a band.
No, that's I didn't even think of that actually. Gretsch.
Classic.
Books.
Bible.
There we go. Kentucky.
Home. Roots.
Paisley Park.
Is in your heart.
Cool. That's all I got.
Okay,
I knew.
that was good. Okay. My
I
hands
knew.
are all sweaty.
I know. Yeah, so are mine too. It's from shoveling the snow though an hour ago. So that is wonderful. Is there anything that you have planned a little bit down the road? Any kind of a vision that you have for yourself and perhaps Joshua and the family musically in, let's say, once the kids are a little bit older, maybe 5 years or so? You're still young. I mean, and
Yeah.
so what do you have planned? Do you have anything in the back of your mind that you'd like to achieve in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Yes. Yes. All the things. I think what we are really big on right now is um, it's a lesson that we learned with Prince is uh, creativity and ownership. And so because he was so passionate about, owning your masters, owning your publishing, owning your rights, not letting people take your ideas from you and make money, off of you and take ownership of what you do. He was so big on that. We have taken that into, you know, this season now of our lives, and we understand where all of that came from now, in retrospect. It's like sometimes you hear people talking, you're like, man, dude, like why is that such a big deal to you? And then in retrospect, hindsight 20 is 2020, you're like, okay, yeah, I understand now what that means. And so for us, there are so many things that we are building now. We have our own ministry, Your Will Be Done Ministries. We have a social justice movement called the Purple Movement, and we're building stuff right now that is so pivotal for especially our country, but we believe is beneficial for the world in regards to social justice and equality and nonpartisanship, to really bring politics and just relationship and how we all function with one another back to humanity, back to love, and being able to see eye to eye with one another despite differences. And so, we're kind of bringing the tech world into that, with the Purple Movement, and really building some amazing stuff. But in everything that we do, we are extremely entrepreneurial, and we have probably 3 or 4 different businesses right now that are being built and cultivated. And so I don't want to give too much away, but in everything that we do, we are bringing in music with that. And so with the ministry, of course, we want to do a praise and worship album. And with the Purple Movement, we already released one music video. And so in everything that we're doing, we understand the importance and the value of music, and that music is the universal language, and that you can touch people from all over the world that you maybe have nothing in common with, but
Right.
the music can unite you to a common vision. And so that's really where our focus is. And we are 100% bringing our kids up in that as well. Our kids love music. It's funny. There was an interview that Prince did with Tamron Hall. I think it was on the Today Show with Al Roker and her and maybe a couple other anchors. And Prince called in to the show and surprised everybody because he was really close with Tamron. And they were having a conversation, and Prince had brought Joshua and I up into the conversation for whatever reason, talking about how anytime we hear music, it's an immediate, just natural response for us to get up and dance. And it's so true. Joshua and I both we're dancers. And so if we feel that groove, we are moving. And I was just thinking about this lately. I didn't even bring this up to Joshua yet. But our kids have that same instinct. Even Genesis, our youngest, she'll be 9 months here in a week or so. And the moment Joshua beatboxes, if we start singing to her, if she hears music, whether it's VeggieTales or funk or praise and worship, she just gets to rocking and moving however she can. And so it's natural in all three of them, and they love music. And so we are definitely bringing them up, of course, with the love of music, but also the passion of using that in a way to be beneficial and inspire others and really make a difference. And so that is our sole focus, is really just loving on people and inspiring people and bringing hope into the world through everything that we do. And yeah, I know that was kind of a long-winded answer. So
That's
yes,
wonderful.
music is on the horizon, even with me, specifically with drumming. Now that Genesis is at a certain age, I am not planning on getting pregnant again anytime soon, y'all. So I'm, diving back into a regular routine of playing and practice and learning and growing and developing and writing and doing more of our own stuff. And, I'm always open to, another big gig, as they say, depending on who it is. It would um, be really awesome to get a really cool worship gig right now. I think that's really, someone like Todd Delaney or Israel Houghton or something like that would be epic.
We
But
put that out there.
yeah, putting it out there, we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, I'm open to the possibilities. I as crazy and amazing as my career has been so far, a lot of people might look at it and say, yeah, well, she had her 15 minutes or her time is up or, whatever the case be. But I don't see it like that. And I'm always open to what God has in store. And I know that, as the word says, the latter is greater than the former. And I know that there is still greatness ahead, and I'm super excited to see what the future holds. And y'all will definitely be seeing more of me, just drumming wise too, here in this year. And I've got some things cooking, got a couple ideas. I don't want to speak on them too soon yet, at least not publicly. But yes, yes, yes.
Wow, that is fantastic. If you could give anyone a drummer that is inspired by you, your words, and your career thus far, what advice would you give that person if they said, Hannah, I want to do what you do. I want to play with some amazing artists, make some great music, and experience life. What would you advise them to do?
One of the things that I always stress is not getting so caught up in what you do and putting your identity in what you do versus who you really are. A lot of times we want to look at celebrities or people, professionals, and say, and equate their identity and their worth as a person to what they're good at and what we know them for. And so I always tell people, remember the why. Remember why you started. Remember why, in this instance, you were drawn to the drums. Why is it that you love this instrument so much? Why is it that this is the one that you chose? And why are you putting all this time and energy into it? And when we keep that sole focus on the forefront of our minds, and we remember that our passion is to either, inspire people or motivate people or, make people happy, make people, remember a time in their life where, they were carefree, because when I play the drums, I'm carefree and it's so much fun and just all the joy and blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, whatever your reason is, don't equate your value and your identity with what you do, because you will then put yourself in a box. And, I had to deal with that myself. I felt like there are a lot of times in my life where if I was more outspoken about my faith or, whatever current issue I was speaking on, a lot of times the same way that news anchor told LeBron to shut up and dribble, I felt like I was getting those responses as well. Just play the drums. We don't want to hear about Jesus, just play the drums. And for me,
Right.
it's like, if you want to come to my page and watch my videos, let me tell you, I might be playing the drums, but Jesus is in it, because he's in me. And he's the reason why I do this. And he's the one that's given me the gift. And so, I honor him with every breath I breathe and word I speak and beat that I play. And so I don't compartmentalize my life anymore. And I used to feel like I had to do that. And so that would honestly be, just be yourself. Remember why you're doing this. Don't let people put you in a box, and don't put yourself in a box. And that's as a person, but also as a player. So be open-minded, be versatile. Even if there's a certain style of music that you don't like to listen to, study it and apply it to your playing because it will benefit you in some way. So, yeah.
And you are so wise and speak right from the heart.
Thank you.
And I appreciate. Wow, this has been amazing. I'm
Thank
actually
you.
going to rewatch this and write down some of these key points because there's a lot of really great
Awesome.
nuggets in here. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much, Hannah.
Awesome.
We have
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for having me.
We have a lot of amazing comments. I'm sorry that I didn't get to them yet, but there are Facebook comments and I will go through. And we're Facebook friends now too. So you're going to be able to see, which is really cool. So again, I appreciate you. Thank you to Joshua. Thank you to your dad, Dave. And everybody, thank you from wherever you're tuning in from and commenting. This has been a really, really fun drum chat. Hope to see you in person one day, maybe at an event, and see you play in person and feel that fire.
Yes.
And we'll have a chicken sandwich together.
Yes, you already know. I'm down. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
My pleasure.
And Dinah and all the Gretsch family. I love you. I love you. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for everything. This was so fun. Such a great start to kick off, 2021 for me, at least. And I'm super grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everybody take care. Tune in next week for another episode of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.